everybody.
Hi, guys. Well, from sweltering Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast,
I'm Frank Feldman.
and I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on the show today, Dan, we've got a discussion about secrecy in religious organizations and specifically a new LDS rule for its local leaders.
It's not new. They just wanted to make sure everybody remembered that this was the rule.
And it's getting a little bit of press at the moment. So
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about that. But in the meantime, Dan, we got some other stuff to get through.
It's true.
Like this story, Dan, that caught my eye because I'm a big fan of Nigerian music.
Who isn't?
And so this Nigerian singer, I know nothing about Nigerian music. It might be really good. I don't know. I don't think this is good music, though, because it's specifically music, sort of religious type music, that got the singer in some hot water with the local authorities. You know, when you live in an area with Sharia law and Sharia courts, you better avoid things that might get you accused of blasphemy in your music. Well, a young man by the name of Yahya Sharif Aminu, he's 22 years old, has been found guilty of committing blasphemy for a song he circulated earlier this year. Apparently it's blasphemous against the prophet Mohammed. And
is it Wet Ass Pussy? Is that the one?
How'd you guess? And apparently this is a thing that happens. These courts do like to issue death sentences. Did I say that? He got the death penalty for this. And they like issuing death sentences. It is legal under Sharia law, of course. Apparently not a lot of them end up getting carried out. Or at least not yet. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, wow, I wonder what he said about, Muhammad.
Right.
Because to get everybody all riled up. Because it must have been really bad. Right? That's what, right? Yeah, I mean, you agree with me, right?
It must be horrifying. Like,
must be
equally
like the
terrible to, for instance, drawing a picture of him.
Oh my God, absolutely, right? Because let me tell you, this song sparked protests. The protesters went to burn down the singer's family home. They gathered outside the headquarters of the Islamic police, demanding a series of actions against the musician. The singer had been forced into hiding after he composed the song.
Man.
At the moment, he's currently in detention. So this is why the song was blasphemous, because apparently it praised an imam too much.
What?
There's an imam that he's a big fan of, and he's too much. He praised him to the extent that that these people felt like it elevated him above the prophet Muhammad.
Oh my God!
You can't be more popular than Muhammad, right?
No,
this is important.
No, was it Jim Morrison who said, or no, it was the Beatles who said they were bigger than Jesus or something like that?
Yeah, if they had said that about Muhammad,
then they would be put to death in Nigeria.
It would have been really, 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 really bad.
Yeah.
But apparently the death sentence has appeased the protesters, who have said that the judgment is a good one. It would send strong signals to others who might want to exhibit errant behaviors.
Yeah, that's a pretty fucking strong signal. It's true.
Or who are contemplating towing Yahweh's path. That's this musician.
Right.
When I heard about the judgment, I was so happy because it showed our protest wasn't in vain. That was one of the main organizers.
No, it sounds like your protest was super effective.
Super successful. Yeah.
Great going, guys.
Well done.
we're gonna send some Black Lives Matter people over to learn some good lessons in how to protest successfully. Because apparently you guys have it down.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God, Nigeria. Okay, there you go. I did not know that Nigeria was that far off the deep end.
Well, I mean, I guess
They are.
This is in the a northern state, the northern Nigerian states, which have kind of one of those joint Sharia law, not Sharia law things, where if you're not Muslim, you're not held to Sharia law. But whatever.
Oh my God, I think that it's amazing. Yeah, you got to leave before you release any of your music. You got to leave some of these countries before you do your music. Is the answer to this? All right. Well, I'm gonna keep us home side. I'm gonna keep us in these United States and go to Arizona, where the Winslow Unified School District number 1, back there in Arizona, was holding their kickoff for staffers.
Okay.
So in this particular era, in this moment in history, I would think that the back to school launch for all of the staff of an entire unified school district would be entirely centered around what are we going to do with this COVID stuff?
Yeah.
How are we dealing with this? What are we doing? Blah blah blah. It's all they need to talk about right now.
Yeah.
Because every teacher in the country, most all over the world are, but especially in our country where we've decided that we'll just, play dice with people's lives with this thing. That's all you want to talk about. It is insane right now. But they went a different direction. They're at the Winslow School District. They listened to they invited a pastor to come out and chat with them.
Oh, good.
That's inappropriate. That's inappropriate. But that's okay, because the next speaker was a pastor. So that's that's doubly inappropriate. But all of that's fine. The next speaker was really another pastor.
Oh,
that's
no.
interesting. 9 in total.
What?
Religious leaders invited to come and talk to a whole bunch of very, very concerned school staff.
Oh my God! They held a revival for them.
They did. They basically had a revival. 90 minutes of Bible quotes and prayer.
What?
And apparently one person said, "Raise your hands." To show, they wanted to raise their hands to show that their belief in God and, all that stuff. God will protect them from COVID-19. It was sort of the takeaway of the whole thing, which is awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, listening at home, hey, if your kids go to school in the Winslow Unified School District number 1 in Arizona, might consider homeschooling.
Yeah.
Just saying, maybe things aren't going great this particular semester.
Oh, and so I mean, that's it, right? Like, they just talked religion at him the whole time?
Yeah.
Did the superintendent ever get up and say anything else?
I don't know. I suppose so. I wasn't
just
there.
like a big setup, right?
Yeah.
And now the superintendent.
Yeah.
No.
The Americans United for Separation of Church and State have sent a scathing letter to them.
Good.
To the superintendent.
Yeah.
One Catherine Zanin.
Oh no.
But yeah, honestly, I don't know how you can think that's okay. I don't know on what planet that seems like a useful or legal thing to do.
Yeah.
But man,
that's insane.
That's just some horrific bullshit right there.
I heard you say Arizona. Did you say the name of the town?
I guess Winslow.
Winslow. Okay.
Yeah.
A small place? Do we know? Like,
I don't know anything about the Winslow
The greater Winslow metropolitan area.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, anyway. Bullshit nonetheless, no matter where it happened.
Yeah.
Less surprising in small towns, but...
Just insanity.
Oh, God.
Just utter insanity. But AZ is like that.
Yeah. Well, Dan, as you know, there was a huge explosion that rocked Beirut and this last week.
I like to think of it as big fireworks.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It shook essentially the entire country, and unbelievable, an unbelievable explosion. Killed 163 people is the tally at the moment. Injured over 6,000 people. Whenever anything like this happens, people can be and should be quick to blame. And that's what the people of Lebanon are currently doing. They're blaming the lack of competent leadership in the country and corruption, the corrupt leaders, so forth and so on. Well, there's a Qatari sociologist who's also chiming in. His name is Abed Al-Aziz Khazraj Al-Ansari. I actually think I did pretty well with that.
I'm going to say you nailed it.
I did nail it. He has a theory as to what this actually was. He says that it was divine punishment for the Lebanese people's blasphemy, and apparently their widespread cursing. Yeah. He says, you curse God, you curse religion, but you want God to bless you? This swearing is probably the main reason for all the suffering you're in.
Oh.
He says that, like, in sort of like, he specifically compares the Lebanese swearing to sort of American, British, and French swearing. He says they swear at one's mother and whatnot. And when it's huge, they say, God damn it. Right? But if you go to Lebanon, they say, damn your religion, damn your God. And he doesn't like that. I guess that's maybe how the swearing works is, damn your religion, damn your God. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
those are the phrases. But he's also
that sounds like normal swearing. That's what you expect to hear.
Pretty typical stuff. He says that that also Beirut is a center for plastic surgery.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be a good religious dipshit rant if he left out the homosexual. So he got around to that as well. But he says that Lebanon is famous for changing God's creation. You want lip injections? Go to Lebanon. You want breast implants? You want to change God's creation? Your face? Go to Lebanon.
I do want to change God's creation. Not my face, but there's plenty that I want to change. So maybe I should go to Lebanon.
Maybe you should. They need help.
Good
they need
Lord.
money. But he also he then encourages, and just to make sure that, like, he's not just criticizing without also suggesting action. He says the people of Lebanon must now cut the tongue of each person who curses God in the streets.
Oh, okay.
Get this. You want your situation to improve? Start with this work and see how God will change your situation.
He's just calling for a little good old-fashioned work. Just put your now perfect nose to the grindstone and do some work.
Wow. Golly.
Swearing as reason for divine retribution. I think that's... Man, these people believe in petty-ass gods. You know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, your God is stupid. Yeah. You have the shittiest God. How can you be proud of that?
I know. But, I mean, that's it, though. God has to be petty. God has to be Like for these churches, for these religions to be able to control, right?
Yeah.
Their people, it has to dip into the most mundane and ridiculous aspects of human life, right?
Yeah.
Like cursing, you hit your thumb with a hammer, you're going to yell out, and it doesn't matter what you say, right?
No, it does matter though. You're wrong, because actually if you swear, it makes you feel better. We know that from science.
Really?
It does. Yeah.
But what kind of swear?
If you don't swear, you don't get the benefits of swearing, which apparently it has numerous benefits, but one of them is actually that you actually can tolerate pain better if you swear.
But don't you think that it's like whatever naturally comes to your tongue, right? The like, if you'd only ever heard the word darn it and it was the worst thing you've ever heard, then it's a swear, right?
Well, no, what has to happen is that it has to have social oomph for it to work. Yeah. You have to have heard, you have to have been socialized that this is a word that has extra zing, that has extra oomph for it to work. So Mormons, when they say fetch and flip, doesn't count.
So they experience more pain when they smash their thumb.
Yeah.
Good.
If you don't scream out, fuck my ass, you are missing out on some pain relief.
I love that. I love that. They're just torturing themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Flip, doodle. Yeah, not going to work.
That still hurts. Yeah. Say something good.
Yeah.
You're going to have to send me a link to that, because I want to believe you.
Well,
I do believe you.
Someone didn't listen to our report on it on the How to Heretic, which did a very fun. We interviewed a guy. It was great.
Sounds good.
Okay. So here's the thing about Americans. We have done a piss poor job of dealing with this COVID thing. I think that much is clear the world over. All of our foreign listeners understand that. Most our listeners here stateside get it. A lot of people don't. It's hard to get a bead on where people in this country are, but a survey from the Pew Research Center has come out, and this one's interesting because we've seen, and we've talked about some of it, but like half of the stories that I read are COVID related, and I'm just bored with it, so I don't report a lot of COVID stories on our show. But like, pastors are dying left and right. I read all these stories about, congregations of churches. One guy shows up who's infected, and then now there's 82 people who are infected or whatever. Mm-hmm. This is happening all over the country. Mm-hmm. So the question becomes, and also like religious dill holes are constantly droning on about how you got to allow the churches to open. You should never... they're just furious about the churches not being open. Disney World is open, but the churches aren't supposed to open. That's religious discrimination and blah, blah, blah. So, Pew did a poll, or a survey. I don't know what the difference is. And they asked Americans whether they thought that houses of worship should be subject to the same social distancing rules as other organizations.
Yes.
Now,
the answer is yes.
The very correct answer. There is a correct answer to this.
Yes.
That is true. But the fact of there being a correct answer doesn't ever prevent Americans from answering the wrong way, because their opinions are more important than the facts. So here's the question. What percentage of U.S. adults do you think that that churches should be required to follow the same rules as other organizations?
Oh, God. It's... How many think that they should have to? It's probably 30 to 35% or something like that.
Okay. Interesting.
What?
Good news. 79% of Americans believe that churches should have to follow the same rules as everybody else.
I thought you were leading this a totally different direction.
You thought we were going to go down a darker road.
Thank God.
No,
What?
let me tell you something. 65% of Republicans
What?
are saying that they think that that churches should have to follow the same social distancing rules.
Oh, and I had just completely taken them out of the equation.
Right?
Holy crap.
74% Christians, 80% of Jews, 89% of unaffiliated people. Democrats, people who lean Democratic, 93% of them.
Then we legit need to tell these people just to go fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very clear. Like, the consensus of America is clear, and yet, this small group of whiny-ass pastors will not shut up.
Yeah. Shut up.
There you go.
That's
Just shut your mouths. We have spoken.
Yeah.
Almost 80% of Americans. I'm so proud of us. I would have thought it was in the 50s.
Well, I've always been a believer in the American people.
Oh, I haven't.
No,
I'm not anymore.
I think it's our system that's all screwy and broken.
Yeah.
Like
the system's broken. The people are broken. Yeah. Everything's broken.
We've got a lot of problems. Don't get me wrong, and I think that but I don't know, and I know it's just my lived experience, but even the people who I don't agree with politically, right, in my life, for the most part, aren't assholes, right? Generally, you encounter good people, right? And then it's some random, sorry for any listeners named Karen, but there's some random Karen, right? Who's fussy about, whatever. But even as somebody who for years worked in kind of in a customer service, environment.
Yeah.
The thing that you'd always have to remind yourself of is the dick who's ruining your night, right? Is one out of how many people in this building, right?
Yeah.
And it's just it's I believe in people. I think we have a horrible broken system that is driving a wedge between us and trying to make us not think that we're all Americans and that we're all in this together, right?
Well, that is a beautiful and hopeful thing that I don't fully agree with, because I think people are a little. I think here's the thing. I've come to a much more nuanced version of my view of human beings, which is that everybody has a lot of good in them and everybody has a little bad in them. And how you let those play out inside of you is sort of a telling thing about your character. But every Karen that calls the cops on people who are just having a barbecue at the park also probably does nice things for non-people of color, in their church or whatever. So there's a cadre of 25 people who will swear that Karen is the best person you've ever met, and you just don't understand. Right. She's, this was just a misstep on her part, but she's actually the sweetest thing in the world. So I don't believe in good people or bad people. I just believe people have some bullshit in them, and they've got some good in them, and hopefully everybody leans a little bit harder to their.
I think that this continues on essentially with the same point, that I think most people are trying to be good, right? Most people are trying to follow the better parts of their
the better angels of their nature.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. I think it's hard to live in a world where you think that it's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
So, anyhow,
there you go.
We couldn't live as a society if it were the opposite. No, I'm serious. We haven't talked about pro-social behavior on the show explicitly in a very, very long time, but it used to be a theme that came up a lot.
That's true.
And in order for a society to work on any level, right, especially, one that is as vast and as diverse as ours, you got to have most people at least trying.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, well, this interesting topic to segue into here. I'm sure a lot of our listeners were aware of a Bible that was burned in Portland, Oregon, ostensibly as part of or purportedly as part of a Black Lives Matter protest.
Sure.
And the story had kind of gone around that a stack of Bibles had been burned, and that it was topped off with American flags and so forth and so on. And then the story came out, and this was circulated around by the New York Post, the Federalist, Ted Cruz, Donald Trump Jr. And then it turns out that the kind of the truth comes out, and that this was a Russian effort to stoke anger in the United States, and to feed the right, and to give them something to be furious about, and to throw mud and sling mud over at the Democrats or the left, right? And
to discredit and
all of that crap, right? And so there was this interesting article in the New York Times about specifically how this is kind of working in this election cycle, because we know 4 years ago the Russians who were meddling in our election were more actively engaged in sort of creating fake profiles on social media platforms. They were using bots to kind of raise the prominence of certain posts and whatnot, by creating artificial activity, by liking and all that kind of stuff.
These are a lot of accusations that you're making right now, Frank, and I'm not comfortable with it.
Really? You don't like that?
Kidding.
No. Anywho, this is known. This is it's been reported on extensively.
Right.
And even if the president of the United States refuses to acknowledge the help that he received, right?
Even though he called for it, explicitly during his during a rally. So yeah.
Anyway, I thought this was important to bring up, just to kind of point out some of what they're doing this go around. They've shifted their strategy a bit. It's a little, or seemingly they've shifted into more of an information laundering type operation, where they create the story, which, by the way, so the way this all went down with the Bible, it was a couple of the people at this protest were building a fire. They were using kindling. They happened to, for whatever reason, put a Bible onto the fire. And the important thing that the article points out is that the crowd wasn't paying any attention. They weren't doing this to rile everybody up, and it wasn't part of the crowd was paying attention to other things at this point. They were later paying a lot of attention to the burning of the flag. That was kind of the point of the fire, apparently, right?
Okay.
You could speculate that they were building the fire to burn the flag.
Sure.
And so I don't know about this Bible. It's just such a weird, random thing to use as kindling. There must have been some intent to burn a Bible, but anyway, it was these guys over in this other area that weren't the focus of attention. And then a reporter who was there from Ruptly, which is owned by RT, which is a Kremlin-financed news organization.
The finest news you can buy.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen RT videos. They have kind of this little green and black little logo in the corner, and I remember years ago first discovering RT, and I didn't know what it was. And I've always had like a fascination with like whenever there's a foreign news outlet that decides to do a broadcast in English, right? Like I'm always kind of fascinated, like, oh, what's I'd like to hear their take, right? And so I remember watching a couple RT videos and just being like, no, what is this? It's obviously Russian, and okay, but it's not obvious. Actually, it's not obviously Russian. You kind of have to dig around for a second. And then like I started getting wise to the fact that it was a propaganda machine and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh God, well, they have this new brand or another brand called Ruptly. And one of their reporters was the one that got the video. And then it's kind of circulates around, and this one account posts it on Twitter, and then it gets retweeted by a prominent sort of agitator type, right? I can't remember his handle. And the original account disappears, and then he sends it out, and then he starts getting all the retweets. And at a certain point in this entire thing, nobody's talking about where to, like, even this retweeter, right?
Right.
And so I'm bringing this up as like a public service announcement more than anything.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
That we're in the final 80-ish days of this election cycle, and it's going to get ugly, right? These last couple months are going to just be a mess. Expect an October surprise, unlike anything you've ever seen before.
Yeah, not a fun one.
Yeah. And it's going to be some nasty accusations about Biden and or Kamala Harris, preferably both. And there's going to be a lot of other disinformation type stuff. And the best ones of these are the ones like this, where there's a nugget of it that's true. There was a Bible that was burned at that protest, right? It wasn't burned as part of the protest, but they were able to take it and twist it and turn it. And then it gets into this shouting echo chamber where people are just retweeting it without even probably watching the video. And every comment about it gets more outrageous, and it gets twisted. And I know everybody already knows this stuff. Please, everybody just pay attention. Right.
Well, that people don't know. I mean, at least, your Aunt Sally who retweeted this, or who's
she
up in arms about it. She doesn't know that she's being manipulated by Russian Twitter bots.
These aren't bots. They've moved. These are actors who've not to be pedantic about it.
Sorry. I'm saying they do that, but then Russian bots also proliferate it. This is one of those things where fully half of COVID-19 is a hoax tweets are bots. This is how this thing takes off. So I don't know. I don't even bother educating your family. It doesn't work. They're not paying it. They don't care about the actual truth of the matter. What they care about is their precious conspiracy theory cult that they've joined.
If there was a way, and this is what we need more of, is not a dissection of each individual story bad fake story that does come up. What we need is for people to have a better understanding of these techniques, right?
Yeah.
Because if you know about the technique and you can talk about the technique outside of the issue or whatever, maybe there's more opportunity to educate people about how they're being manipulated. And then the information, it's basically how media literacy works. And this is this is media literacy, right? It's when you know how, for example, a film can be edited or shot in order to change your perspective about the subject matter, right? How film and television can manipulate you, right? Just to feel an emotion, right? Like not even.
Well, maybe they can manipulate you. I'm unmanipulable.
But you end up feeling an emotion because because of how it's made, right?
They craft it that way.
They've made it that way, and this is exactly the same kind of stuff. It's been designed to elicit a response on a societal level, and just be aware of it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Try not to let yourself be easily manipulated.
Well, and that's I at this point don't believe anything. Right. I know my basic truths, and I know that Donald Trump's destroying the country. Right. That's all I need. Vote for Biden. Right. That's all I need.
At this point, that's all you can do. All right. Well, I'm going to take us to finally we're gonna go to Liberty University.
Oh,
land of so much liberty and so little university, which is run by one Jerry Falwell Jr. And a man to whom I made incorrect reference last week, or rather, I got my juniors mixed up.
Oh,
I thought I was talking about Franklin Graham, because we were talking about Billy Graham and his thing going up, his statue going up in DC.
Yeah.
And I referenced a photograph that was actually Jerry Falwell Jr., not Franklin Graham.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I get the two of them mixed up all the time.
There's both sons of very prominent pastors and the sons are obviously way worse than the daddies, because when you inherit preaching as the family biz, nothing's worse than a preacher's kid. That's just a fact. Anyway, nothing's worse than a preacher's kid who also becomes a preacher.
Right. There you go.
That's the worst thing. Preacher's kids who like rebel and go off and have sex and drugs and have some fun. Great. More power to you. Anywho, Jerry Falwell Jr. was the one who took a picture, who posted inexplicably a photograph of himself on his yacht with his arm around a young woman who her pants are undone. He later claimed that this is because she's pregnant and the pants don't fit. Fine. Also, her shirt is pulled up and her midriff is showing. I don't care about that. His pants also undone.
Yeah.
His shirt also pulled up, midriff showing, and he's holding what is very clearly not, as he claims, black water in his glass.
That is perhaps my favorite part of his entire post. Is his claim that it's not wine.
Or liquor or whatever. If he had just said Coke, everything would have been fine.
Yeah, enjoying a Coke while showing off our bellies or whatever.
You're right. I promise, the exact quote in the tweet was, "I promise that's just black water in my glass. It was a prop only." What the fuck are you talking about?
Now we know you're lying.
Yeah, because you don't take props on your boat with you when you're hanging out with a bunch of friends.
Right.
Anyway, here's the thing. This is a man who we have reported on for a long time, because he's got all these like crazy things that keep happening to him, like racist tweets. That was just from last May. A whole pool boy scandal thing, like racy pictures that he's just craziness.
Yeah.
Just madness. None of those things seemed to be the final straw, but this photograph of him with his fly open, his pants open, and his belly hanging out was the last straw.
It's amazing.
He is out at Liberty University, at least temporarily, but indefinitely, on a leave of absence. Yeah. And the former head of the board of directors or whatever is taken over for now.
Yeah. Pool boy lovers couldn't do it.
Right.
Unbelievable.
What the fuck is going on with these people? But man, you hold a glass of black water and everybody just loses their mind.
Oh,
Does he know that black water is actually just how people refer to toilet water? Like, that's a thing. That's
He's
toilet
like,
water.
I'm just drinking poo water.
I'm just drinking poo. Don't worry, it's not alcohol. Everybody just chill out. It's a prop glass of poo water.
I hope it's just poo water or prop poo water then.
Right.
Like, yeah. That's the only.
There you go.
Anyway.
So there you go. Hey, if you'd like to tell us why other reasons why Jerry Falwell Jr. should have been kicked out of Liberty University earlier, you can write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or you could leave us a voicemail message. Just call 424-666-8442. There's more show coming up. We'll be right back. Dan.
Hey.
We have some audio from somebody new to the show this week.
Yeah, I guess I don't recall ever playing this guy before.
I don't think if we have, it's been quite a ways back. His name is James Robeson.
Yeah.
And just like any other sort of televangelist-y type of, founder of his own sort of Christian, organizations and whatnot.
He's an old white guy is what he is.
That's who he is. And of course, he's all up in arms about COVID-19. And he's got his theory about.
Well, he knows what's going on is what he does.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's great is, so he's talking to another guy. The video has a split screen between these two. They're both on like Zoom or whatever. And the other guy is wobbling back and forth. He's like so into what this guy is saying that he is literally vibrating in his chair. And of course, what's great is that Robeson himself is an old guy, and so what we're getting is the audio from his laptop or whatever, because it sounds like crap. So here's James Robeson sounding like crap.
We were seeing miraculous answers to prayer. Satan, the father of lies, division, dissension, death, and destruction, was losing ground that he had gained. We were beginning to see the value of every life, the importance of loving every person, beginning with God and our neighbors. We were beginning to see the economy become strong again. We were seeing the justice system reform mightily. We were seeing great changes. We were seeing security in our nations becoming stronger, our military to protect freedom and all that is precious becoming stronger. I'm saying, and I really do believe this, Satan himself losing ground went ballistic. No question, we had sowed the seeds of destruction. We had turned our back on God. We put other things before God. We had opened the way for destruction and deception to come in. But we were beginning to push back miraculously. And of all things, the last person on the planet we thought would stand up for what's right, this president, Donald J. Trump, began to stand up for what was best. And I personally believe the pandemic, the whole bit, is not just that we were too often vulnerable, but I believe Satan went ballistic and had to stop the progress that was being made because we were glimpsing a spiritual awakening and answered prayer. Do you bear witness with what I just said? I'd really like to know.
No, listen, we can't deny the fact that it can't be a coincidence that COVID-19, the social unrest, the melees, all of this takes place in this limited span of time. What is the enemy so mad about? I agree.
What is the enemy so mad about, Frank? He's just so mad. He's just mad. I think, we've said it before on the show, but these guys need to read their own fucking book.
I know.
It is not Satan that sends plagues, my friend. That's not his MO. That is another guy. There's this other guy in your book who's the guy who sends all of the plagues.
Yeah.
Every single time, if there's a plague, if you're being tempted to, have sex with someone that you actually want to have sex with or, drink something fun, that's the other guy. Yeah. That's the Satan.
Yeah, Satan.
But it's your guy that sends the plagues.
Yeah, you're right. Satan doesn't punish in this lifetime. He wants you doing the bad stuff.
Yeah.
He wants you to be happy there so you can be damned eternally.
Yeah, exactly.
According to them, of course. But
yeah.
And I always think that the strange obsession with like the economy and the military in sort of this context, it's like again, it's just this absolute contradiction of like any Christianity that I would have ever thought
recognized.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like riches are not praised in the Bible. Right.
No, they're definitely like the opposite is very much the case.
Yeah.
At least with Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe Old Testament you can get some praising of riches or whatever.
Yeah, but like military and like all these things that just seem so opposite to the message, to Christ's message, right?
Yeah.
It's just it's amazing.
I love the middle part of this where it feels like he loses the plot of his own thing for a minute there. He's like, everything's going bad. Well, first he's like, everything was going great in our country. Yeah. And then he goes, I mean, sure, we had invited the enemy to come in and we were doing bad, but we were doing good. Wait, what was I saying? We were doing good or we were doing bad? Both things were happening and Satan hates it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was, that you got to love it when their own brain ties itself into a knot accidentally.
All right. We have some emails, correct?
We do have some emails. We had a couple people write into us because we discussed doctors and the idea that maybe a doctor who puts more stock in their faith than in the science is a scary prospect, and might be someone that you'd want to reconsider doctrine.
I figured we'd hear something about that.
Yeah. So Brian wrote into us with a beautiful long email that I'm going to excerpt now, and we'll sort of walk our way through it. But yeah, a sort of heartbreaking story. Hello, heathens. He says, you asked where we draw the line on doctors that are religious. I can tell you my girlfriend's story. In 2017, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was very afraid of pain and getting treatments that might not work. She wanted to just take an anti-cancer drug to slow it down and skip the whole surgery chemo process. We went in to meet with the oncologist. He was trying to talk her into doing the whole regimen. And then out of nowhere, he says, God wants you to get well. I thought we might be in trouble at that point, as one of the questions we had to ask was would he support death with dignity if it came to that? For those who don't know, death with dignity is sort of a catchphrase for euthanasia, or for people being able to take their death into their own hands. Especially in cases of terminal illness. He seemed put out that she didn't want to do the full treatment and said, God wants you to get well a couple more times. Eventually, he agreed to just let her start taking the drug without doing the full treatment. We asked if, in the worst case scenario, he would support her using death with dignity, and he said no, he would not. We elected to find another doctor.
Yeah.
The clinic seemed a bit put out, but we got another doctor who agreed he would support her death with dignity decision if needed. We had to stay with that clinic, as the only other one in town was Franciscan.
Oh, okay.
The new doctor talked her into doing a consult with another clinic in Seattle, and she decided to do the full regimen, chemo, surgery, and radiation after that. At the end of 2018, she was cancer-free. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole thing. Apparently, the cancer came back. They found, so they had to go and find a doctor willing to do their death with dignity. She fought the cancer as long as possible. Things took turns for the worse. So back to Brian's email. She took the death with dignity medicine and died peacefully 3 days later. Those 3 days were the worst I can remember. She was down to 70 pounds and was having trouble breathing. At least the suffering was over. I got a card from the staff at the clinic after she died. The doctor who helped with her death with dignity medicine. Oh, and by the way, she had gone to another doctor. The second doctor who had promised that he would help with her death with dignity. They found out that he reneged on that in reading his notes.
Oh, okay.
But he never told them, so that's cute. I got a card from the staff at the clinic after she died. The doctor who helped with her death with dignity medicine had signed it, quote, "My thoughts and prayers are with you. I guess compassion is more important than beliefs. I think that the first doctor is technically competent, but should really keep the God stuff out of it, or at least ask patients if they are believers before spouting off. I guess the lesson is there's no real way to tell what any doctor will do, which is unfortunate."
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, really, really tough stuff there. But yeah, it's so important, and you have the right to ask your doctors where they're at with certain things, because, and I think, Brian points out a little later in the email that, asking whether they're okay with death with dignity is actually a good surrogate for finding out your doctor's compassion level.
Yeah.
Death with dignity, by the way, is not something that is legal in a lot of states in the U.S., I think. Or did they? I don't remember.
I don't think it is
know
legal
if that's
in
a
most
thing.
places.
So you'll have to sort of sort that out amongst yourselves. And, those of you who are abroad, there are a few countries where euthanasia is legal and others where it's not.
Right.
So individual results may vary. Anna also wrote in on the same topic. Hi, Frank and Dan. I think that for women, it's much more important to make sure that you get a doctor without the baggage of Christian beliefs. While a demon-based diagnosis for allergies would be crazy rare, bad diagnoses for women are very common. I've run into several doctors who had strong, obviously patriarchal attitudes towards women patients. The older and more religious they were, the more that attitude outweighed the current medical standards. I won't go into any specifics, but my daughter and I were both affected by this problem. I currently go to a family medicine residency clinic, and my young, not quite doctors are much better than the old guard who treated me with disdain. So that's a great point, man. It's when these guys come up through the ranks of especially Christian religions, they often don't have any respect for women.
Right.
Which is, I would say, and this may be controversial on my part, a problem.
Indeed. All right.
We have somebody who we have a voicemail.
We do have a voicemail, Dan. This is a listener who is sharing a story about an interaction he had with somebody who he felt there was a little bit of conflict in sort of this person's beliefs and actions, I guess you could say. So let's have a listen.
Hey, Frank and Dan, it's Matt hanging out down in South Carolina, and I wanted to relay an interesting interaction I had at work. I travel for work, and I met a gentleman who was very intelligent, very smart engineer, and he said some not necessarily borderline, completely over-the-line racist things one-on-one to me that made me uncomfortable. Well, the next day at work, chatting again, he surprised the heck out of me, a man from Alabama and who had said racist things, then came out to me as an atheist. I think he had maybe caught the way I talked or perhaps could tell by the way I acted. But anyways, I thought I'd like to hear your thoughts on, the fact that we definitely have members in our ranks that, we can't control their religious beliefs. For sure, they just don't take a religious one, but they are people who are also nursing other hatred, despite not believing in God. I just was interested to hear your thoughts. Thanks.
Well, Who, you know? We have assholes in our group too.
Yeah. And we, it's not just going to be, racism. There's all sorts of isms that you're going to find, I suppose, out there amongst atheists. Yeah, it's not like just because you figured out the God thing, you've figured out how to work through, things that you were, taught probably growing up,
Yeah.
If your parents are racist, there's a likelihood, especially, I would think a lot of the younger people probably maybe or do a better job of kind of working through a lot of these things all at once or whatnot. I don't know. But like, here's this old guy who knows when he became an atheist, and he had a lifetime of racism probably as well. So,
well, and here's the thing. It doesn't even have to be a lifetime. A lot of, there are people who were leaders of our movement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're still acting like ding-dongs. They're out there being dickheads. They're out there being sexist and racist. And, we're not a perfect group. We need to call it out in each other. We need to make sure that we understand that racism is unacceptable by anybody.
Yeah.
And so if we see it in our group, we definitely need to make sure that people who are being racist are told that they're not that it's not acceptable, that we don't accept that.
Yeah. It is telling though that it is surprising that an atheist would be racist, right? That it says something about religion and racism.
Yeah, that's
right?
nice.
You know what I mean? Like that the two do go hand in hand, at least historically, in this country and in the history of the world, really.
Right.
Religion's about in groups and out groups, and what better way to. Yeah, anyway.
Well, hey, we got some folks to thank, and I'm going to launch into, we owe someone a anointing into our priesthood here at Thank God I'm Atheist. And that person is Response Agency.
Oh, nice.
I don't have an actual name, but Response Agency gave to us through our PayPal, which is amazing, and thank you so much. And
so we're going to bestow what? Like,
I think we're going to go with a priest.
Awesome.
You are now a priest in the Aaronic priesthood of the Thank God I'm Atheist. So thank you so much, Response Agency. We got one other person to thank, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we do indeed. Our top donor, Dan, over on Patreon, our Lord and Savior, Davis.
Oh, praise be he. We'll have more information at the end of the show with how you can give, but these are the best people on earth. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Hey, Dan.
Hey.
So the LDS Church this last week sent a little letter around.
Who, the Mormons?
The Mormons. They sent a letter around to their local leaders clarifying an issue. Or a stance, I guess, of the church, that these leaders are not in any way, shape, or form to ever participate in, quote, any type of court case without speaking first to the church. And
you got to check in with their with their literally hundreds of, probably thousands of lawyers.
Millions of lawyers, really. I mean, it's just it's an army.
It's all lawyers. The entire church is just lawyers at this point.
If they could pull that off, they would probably do it.
They would. They should take those $100 billion that they've got and send everybody to law school.
Or just paralegal school.
Sure,
you don't have to be the lawyer.
Right.
That's true.
There's got to be something for the ladies to do. Anyway, so they sent out this thing that was basically very clearly there. And by the way, what they're referencing is a policy that they've had in place sort of since forever. But, you know, these all of their clergy is lay clergy. Everybody, all of their bishops, which is sort of the leader of each of the parishes, are just called from the group. So none of them they're not paid, they're not, and they're not trained in any appreciable way. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. So this was to remind all of these ding-dongs, hey, we don't like it if you do anything in any sort of legal proceeding or anything without checking with us first.
Right.
Which is, could be problematic. You know, look, every organization sort of has that policy. They, you know, check with us before you participate in a thing. But this was sent out very clearly to chill, to put on ice the notion that any of these people, anybody who's sort of involved in anything, should feel free to even like answer a subpoena.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the words obstruction of justice were being thrown around as a potential outcome of this, right? That, like,
right.
That, like, this kind of that if the church is stonewalling, you know, some, you know, legal action, that's essentially what it could amount to, right?
Yeah.
But like more so than like even like the ins and outs of this, I mean, it just speaks volumes to their desire to control and to keep secret what they want to control and keep secret as an organization. Right. It doesn't smack of transparency or trust or any of those kind of things, right?
Oh, the reason that it doesn't smack of that is because it smacks exactly of the opposite. They want no transparency. They don't trust anybody.
Right.
Shut your fucking mouth and talk to us. Don't ever talk to them.
Right.
Is what this is about. And this came out suspiciously around the time, and we have not really gone into the whole Chad Daybell thing.
Yeah.
This is a guy, I'm sure most of our listeners have seen all this stuff because it made international news, but this is a guy who was a Mormon, but like got into some crazy, his own prophesying. He started basically his own little Mormon cult. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, his wife's kids ended up dead and in his backyard.
Nothing suspicious about any of it.
No.
You know.
But yeah, suddenly the church, this all happens. This guy's going to court.
Jesus.
Like, that's crazy. Preliminary hearings are happening now. And suddenly the LDS church starts sending out a thing that's like, don't do anything in court ever without talking to us first.
I mean, how much do they mean ever here? Like,
yeah,
like it's.
I think
any
they
type
mean
of court
ever.
case.
I think they would rather probably all of their members, but at least their leadership people, who again I can't stress enough, are not hired. They're just dudes from the ward.
Right, but I'd say something in their personal life. They're not talking about that, are they?
Oh,
like
I'm guessing
like
that
somebody's involved in some real estate something or other that goes wrong, right? Like, very personal, very much their own business, perhaps their business, right? They don't mean that. They couldn't possibly. But that's how they're. It's so blanket what they're saying.
Yeah, the way that this thing is worded is just, we remind leaders and members of a long-standing leaders and members. So that's everybody.
Okay.
Of a long-standing policy that church leaders should not involve themselves in civil or criminal case in civil or criminal cases regarding members in their units, quorums, or organizations without first consulting with the church legal counsel.
There we go. There it is. Yeah, they don't mean anything and everything. That would just be ridiculous. Right. Okay,
but
so
frankly,
another member's
if you
involved
called
in
them
something.
on everything,
yeah,
they would probably appreciate it. If you called them on everything and like, hey, do I need to talk to y'all about my neighbor suing me over my tree, and I cut down a tree that I think's on my property, but he thinks it's on his property. Do I need to call y'all about that?
Well, their first question would probably be, is your neighbor a member of the church?
Right. Does this affect any church property? Are you the bishop? Is your neighbor the bishop? Okay, then no, we don't need to be aware of it. Don't worry about it.
But thank you for your...
We're glad you called. I guarantee you there is a paralegal at Kirtland McConkie or whatever their big law firm, whose job it is to just go through all the ding-dongs and just be like, nope, we don't need to be a part of that. Or, yep, you need to shut your mouth. We're taking over on this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to escalate you to Mr. Kirkland.
And or McConkie.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Here's the thing. Like, you're right. What this is about is a church that desperately doesn't want anyone to meddle in any of their business at all, which doesn't strike me. Yeah, I think all churches are like this,
probably to some extent.
And the thing is that, like, I get to some extent why you would want to be a little insular.
Yeah.
Why you want your shit to be your shit and not everybody else's business.
Yeah. I will say this, though. Most churches aren't as centrally organized as the LDS Church is.
Oh, my God.
Right. Like this is a top-down organization. Like,
the Catholic Church wishes they could be this centrally organized.
Right.
And they have a pope.
Right. Like, the church downtown owns every single church building on the face of the planet. Right. Or at least owns the entity that owns them. Right. Like nothing's locally owned. Nothing is locally controlled. Nothing.
Oh yeah.
Nothing.
If a ward or a stake, if the stake is the equivalent to the diocese, if they decided that they wanted to break away from the church, they'd have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
They own nothing. They got nothing.
That's part of the control, right?
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing because religions in general, they're controlling.
Yeah.
They're controlling. This one does it really, really well. They're extra on the control.
Which is why people, when they leave it, feel like they've left a cult.
Yeah. Oh, only because it 100% is a cult.
Yeah.
In almost every appreciable way in every way that makes a thing a cult, that's what the Mormons are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, short of like going full Scientology, you're not going to find a more crazed controlling group. To the point where literally when the news broke of the church's $100 billion endowment that they have invested all over the world, no one was more surprised than members of that church. They didn't know it.
Right.
We all guessed that they had a lot of money, but the fact that their own members had no idea that they were sitting on that kind of wealth is just telling about how this group operates. And that's just telling about religion in general. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think especially as an interesting sort of microcosm, I think the LDS Church is a fascinating stand-in for just religion in general. A little synecdoche, if you will, for religion in general.
I mean, I guess so. But I hope most people didn't have religious experiences like ours, right? I kind of suspect and know that they really didn't. Like if you grew up in a nominally Methodist household, it's far cry from growing up in a nominally
That's true.
Mormon household where
That's
it's
true.
just still, even though your family's sort of about the whole thing, it just gets its tendrils right in you.
It's funny. I guess it is telling that Mormonism, just straight standard down to Brighamite Mormonism, is a fundamentalist church that has fundamentalist versions of itself. That's how crazy it is. Like you want to get real crazy, you have to see that there are fundamentalist versions of this fundamentalism. That's nuts. All right.
Funny.
Well, tell us about your fundamentalist upbringing if you want to. Write to us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or you could call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist. That's easy to find, and click on the like button.
And while you're there, search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge and request to join. It is a closed group. We will let you in. Also, find us on Twitter @TGIAtheist.
Hey, I want to just say real quick that the TGIA Members Only Lounge has been a little bit tricky to search. I don't know what Facebook's doing with their algorithm, but if you want to, you can go to facebook.com/groups/TGIA.membersonly.
Nice. Also, if you like what you hear on the show and you'd like to support us and you'd like to continue hearing more, please support us. You can go to our website, thankgodimatheist.com, and click on the support tab and then figure out the best way for you.
Thanks so much to Gordon Johnston for some of our music.
And the Red Rock Hot Club for the other music.
And thanks so much to all of you guys for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.